Welcome and thank you for joining me for this brief presentation on Stronghold Training. My name is Thom Pirone. I'm the servant leader and owner of Stronghold Training. It's my privilege to be able to present what we do to you. Let me just start off by asking you this question. What is it that made you interested in sitting down and listening to me talk about our company? I imagine your answer probably has something to do with either a current problem you're having, a current opportunity you're trying to capitalize on, or it may just be out of simple curiosity as to what we do. Either way, all those questions will hopefully be answered today. If for some reason it isn't, I want to make myself available to you to have a conversation. So if you go to strongholdtraining.com/schedule, or you just go to strongholdtraining.com, it's the first button you're going to see there on the homepage. You can book a 15-minute phone call with me or even an hour sit down with me to talk a little bit more about what Stronghold might be able to provide for you. So what I'm not going to do in this presentation is attempt to sell you our services. If you're interested in our services, that's great. You can contact me and we can talk further. What I do want to do is explain a little bit about why we do what we do, how we've done it, what specifically we've done, and that should help you understand a little bit more whether or not we might be a resource for you. So let's get started. Stronghold Training has been in business now at the time of recording this for over 3 years. That said, I, Thom Pirone, have been doing this for a lot longer than that. Stronghold was really designed to address this major issue that has changed in the past 5 years. So the employer-employee relationship is just not the same. Meaning businesses today are looking for, they're keyed in on getting top talent. It's not like it used to be. It used to be, you could get someone fresh out of college, fresh out of school, and kind of put them to work. And there was just a different dynamic in play because people would come to work and they would stay in their career for longer periods of time. It's much more demanding today. We need great people who can be activated for duty and onboarded quickly. And here's the real catch. Every company is different. It's not like you go from one company to the next, and as long as you're in the same industry, a lot of the skills transfer. Companies are so innovative today, they're changing at such a rapid rate that almost everyone we bring into an organization, we have to develop in some way. We've got to develop them fast. We've got to empower them. So what we need is top talent that can really adapt quickly, and we need to have the ability to do that for them. And unfortunately, so many companies struggle in this area. That's why Stronghold exists. So what employees are really looking for is not only that top talent, but they need people who share their values as well. And we're designed, Stronghold's been designed to capture those core values of organizations and then bring not only the training that's going to make their top talent develop and be able to bring a tremendous ROI on everything they do, but also make sure that we're always broadcasting through the core values that we share with the organizations we work with. So unfortunately, as you already know, great talent does not always translate to an ability to do your job. You can find a lot of raw material out there. We get our hopes up. We get so excited. We might even put that Superman or Superwoman cape on them, and then it fails. And like I've already said, it's because of our complex work environment today. There's just too much to learn, too much to keep up with, and most employees are just complaining that they're overwhelmed. But hey, in the interview, they were excellent candidates. It seems like the talent is there, and it probably is, but they're just overwhelmed, they're not onboarded well, and it's just so hard. Their past experience doesn't really relate to present day success. This is the issue. As a result, not only does execution suffer, but I found a lot of forward thinking, a lot of taking ownership, a lot of that hope and empowerment we had thought would happen with these new hires. It just doesn't happen. And this isn't just with new hires. This is with legacy employees as well. So top talent, though that's what we're searching for, that in and of itself is not enough to make the difference. What we have to do is actually mold that top talent in a new and profound way from the way we used to do it. Of course, the way we We used to do it is we might have a little training program. We've got some OJT, some on-the-job training. We let them do some shadowing. Maybe there's some mentoring. Maybe there's some systems training. All necessary, but not necessarily enough to ensure profound success. So our best employees with that right raw material must be transformed, not just trained, but highly tuned into becoming predictable success machines. You're investing in these folks. Your investment needs to be hedged, it needs to be insured, it needs to be guaranteed with more than the standard old training. It has to be a training that brings predictable success. Good news is this can be achieved. Not only through top-notch training, but also through great leadership. The two go hand in hand, two sides of the same coin. This brings your workforce into laser focus and makes sure your KPIs are guaranteed. Not only that, not only do they need to be trained for this, but they have to be empowered and given the ability to be accountable so that they attack every single day with the implementation required to succeed. So what I mean by that is it's not enough to just train and equip someone. You have to train and equip them to be able to continuously implement for the future. I mean, I can teach you to fish, but then you're going to go out and try it. And this is what most new hires and many even legacy employees complain about is they say, yeah, I was trained at the job, but I just wasn't coached afterwards. But if we actually go back and look at their training, a lot of times they're just coasting through their training. They're like, can we just get this class over with so I can get out there and try this? The reason why is the old classroom style of onboarding and training employees doesn't really work. And even the on-the-job training where they're just kind of watching it, they get a little bit of it and they want to get out there and try it. My point is this. In today's work environment, most employees want to get through the training as quick as possible so they can go out and train themselves. That means that the old way of training is just not working in the modern mindset. We have to have a new way of delivering this training. So as I've already told you, Stronghold Training was designed with this in mind. We're just not like the other training companies out there, which really deliver fundamentals suited for 1980s or even 1950s businesses, especially sales training. Most of the sales training out there is still 1950s in its design, not only in the content, but especially in how they deliver the training. Just doesn't work as much as it needs to. This is why those employees walk away with just a bunch of information, yet they remain unchanged. I hear it all the time. Oh, Tom, we spent $5,000 per employee on a great leadership training or on a top-notch, top-rated sales training. Well, how much have your numbers changed? Oh, we've seen a little bit. Okay, well, let's go talk to those employees. How much have you changed based on that? Well, the information is good. Could you have got that information from a podcast? Could you have got that from reading a book? How much has it really transformed you, and how much of that are you regularly implementing? The results speak for themselves. Not enough, not for the investment, but it's not the fault of the content. It's the fault of how we deliver this information to ensure that they're actually implementing it. And that's where great training really becomes worthwhile. So this, of course, speaking of me, I don't like to talk a ton about myself, but I'll just say that I'm like you. I'm sick of the same old training. I have a hard time, as a trainer even, sitting in training and just receiving more and more information. I get most of that information from audiobooks and blog articles in 10 minutes that I could get in hour-long or week-long training. I love going to conferences as much as the next person, but I have a hard time sitting for more than 20 minutes and receiving training. Why? Well, it's not necessarily because of the speaker or the content. It's because that is, if I don't feel like I'm actually getting the training, if I'm not actually being transformed, then it's hard for me to sit more than 20 to 40 minutes. Again, the information is great. I could get the information in 20-minute segments. But if I feel like I'm actually being transformed through the process, man, I could sit there all week. That transformation must take place during the training. So after years of coaching and training, I've come up with what I believe is the best way to unlock that and lasting change. Not only do I believe in it, but I've seen it demonstrated time and time again. I just can't do it any other way now. That's why I have my own company, because it's the only way I'm free to do it the way that I know works best. This process I call the EFA. EFA is a not so fancy acronym for emotion, foundation, and activation. Let me just walk you through what I mean by that. So to every amount of training in our modern day, there is an emotional component. We don't want to be run by our emotions, but we have to unlock our emotional intelligence. The reason why is I could train, let's just take sales training or leadership training for that matter. We could take the very best training content out there in sales and leadership, really in any skill set, and hand it to an individual who's intelligent and capable. But if their emotions get in the way at time of implementation, you hear the same feedback all the time. Tom, I knew what to say, I'd had great training, but the stress got to me. I mean, we see it with athletes. Athletes can have the very best training in the world, but the stress of the moment, it's in that moment that the true athlete perseveres, breaks through barriers, scores the touchdown. They get exhilarated by the moment where performance matters. We see that all the time. When you look at the Super Bowl, you look at the NBA Finals, sometimes you can just see the pressure got into one team's head, and the pressure caused another team to perform. Well, how do we make that difference? It doesn't come down to just the material. It comes down to their emotional intelligence being trained along with the material to make sure that they can do both at the same time. So all the training I do takes emotional intelligence into view while training. Next, we have to look at the foundational elements. You know, a lot of people say they don't want to go to sales or leadership training because I've already had that before. I've had the fundamentals. The funny thing is, if you look at all the great athletes, if you look at all the great leaders, if you look at all the great sales professionals, most of them are simply those who execute on the fundamentals the best. They don't have a bunch of secret methodologies to be performing so well. They just really perform the fundamentals so well. Top coaches around the world, no matter whether it's in sports or in business, typically are just giving you those fundamentals in new and profound ways. Now, we don't just need to train the fundamentals over and over again. We have to apply the fundamentals to your unique environment. That's really the thing. It's about implementing the fundamentals. So we always make sure that the fundamentals and the foundations are there, but then we optimize them for the specific environments with those we train. Everything has to be customized. That's why training is best done when it's customized to the learner. It's put into their unique environment. And then, of course, we've got activation. Again, you can take people that went to the best schools in the world and they can't perform in the business world. Why? Because some of the best training out there does not necessarily help people implement them day to day. The business elite must master the art of execution. So what our training does is it doesn't just bring the emotional intelligence, it doesn't just bring the fundamentals, it doesn't just bring all of those things, but it also says, let's focus on the implementation. The implementation is as much a part of the training as the actual training is itself. And that's EFA. So who have we helped in the past? This sounds great. Who have we actually done this with? Who can attest to our success? Well, here's some companies that I personally have worked with. Some of these with Stronghold and some of these before Stronghold. And these are just a few of the companies I've worked with. You probably noticed some of the names. The reason why these logos are here is not to boast in who we've worked with. I mean, I could make a much larger list for that. But to show you that this type of training, this EFA process, works with both small, medium, and large organizations. It has helped them better leverage their talent for results. So I've got small, medium, and large organizations here. I've got individual-owned organizations. I've got publicly traded organizations, nonprofits, profits, really multiple industries. I've never found an area that this doesn't work for as long as companies are dedicated to living through core values. So how do I get ROI from training? It could really be measured in 3 ways. So one way is, are you making more money? And that doesn't just come from sales training. Leadership training can have a measurable sales ROI. A lot of different things can. So I always want to look at your revenue growth. Are you growing from what we've done? And try every way we can to measure that as we go. And I usually set that up in advance. Also, what about your process improvement? Are you actually improving in your structure? Can we measure more efficiency? Absolutely we can. So before I work with a client, I like to look at what the sales potential growth could be or revenue growth could be, what their structure improvements might bring and how we would measure those, whether it's in hours saved or in efficiencies created. And then I always like to look at individual or personal advancement. Do we see people leading better? Do we see them promoting within the organization? Do we see them developing other people? Let's chase that ripple effect. And those are the ways that I usually set up in advance and then measure the progress of working with me through it so that I can come back to my clients and just say, hey guys, we're helping you and here's the numbers to prove it. So sales revenue, what have I done in the past? So historically, a Stronghold has increased individual sales people's closed revenue by about 15 to 30% on average, and that's for mid to large size companies. Some of the smaller organizations I've worked with have told me that we've done over 700% growth, and I've got some well into the thousands. Me saying this is an absolutely no way a promise that you're going to see those results. I can't do that. I wish I could, but I can't promise that you're going to see those results. These are based on metrics that have been reported back to me from people I've worked with. And I know that I cannot say whether or not they're even typical, but what I would say is this, that I'm typically how I would word it is this. I can't make any promised claims, of course, you understand that, but what I would say is that it's not unusual for people I work with to boast an increased revenue, and that's why we continue to work with the same people over and over again. The best way to check that out is I'd love to have you have a conversation with people I've worked with. I can also sit down with you and do an assessment. We can set some goals on what your revenue increase might be, and then as we begin working together, we're going to track that. The fact of the matter is, if I'm not growing your revenue, there's really no reason you should be working with me. These things should really pay for themselves. And so these are some of the historical things I've seen. Here's a client that I've helped, DAS Health. They are a managed service provider, medical IT company that I've worked with for over 5 years. And they've acquired 5 companies while we were working with them. They've been on the Inc. 5000 list 8 times, and the Tampa Bay Fast 50 list, Tampa Bay Business Journal's Fast 50 list 9 times in a row. The Inc. 5000, they're not an Inc. 1000 company quite yet. I've also worked with the eye doctors. They have now actually franchised to a group called True Eye Experts. I've been working with them for well over 6 years, and they've grown on average of 30% every year they've worked with us. And like I said, they've now franchised. We were critical in developing their processes, their management structure, their sales team, and I'm developing all of their franchisees as well. It's just a great relationship. The eye doctors and DAS Health, just walking around there, you can just see the lasting effect of our training, and that's why I do what I do. It's not about, oh, I trained this one contractor or this one company one time and made X number of dollars. I want to be able to come into the organization, walk around, and just see the fruit of those labors, to see what the team has done since the training. And most of the companies I work with, I'm able to do that because we implement this stuff, we ensure its implementation, and we work with them for the long term. And so I'm able to see that. These are 2 stunning examples of that for sure. So if you're interested in learning more about Stronghold, there's some ways you can connect with us online. But really the best way is to just schedule a call. Let's just have a discovery meeting. I'm just here to ask a lot of questions, to learn more about you. I'll of course present if I can help you, but I'm not here to just sell stock programs to you. Everything we do is really tailor-made, and so it makes sense to sit down, to have a conversation, to learn what you're trying to achieve, and then I can show you what we can do. We can set up some metrics in advance, and then we can evaluate the training as we go. A lot of times I like to start small with people and make sure that they really can see the value before they start making larger investments with us. If that might be something you're interested in, go to strongholdtraining.com, schedule that call with me. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit and learn more about what we do. I hope it's been helpful to you. And in the future, if we might be a resource to you, I'll look forward to seeing you schedule a call. Thanks so much.